What's up, YouTube? So a little while ago, I did a stream where I let my modular system kind of generate random music for a couple of hours straight with very minimal interaction from myself. Kind of just let the machine do its thing and randomly generate. I wouldn't really call it music. It was more like space noises the whole time. And the whole idea of the patch was based on a thing called a Krell patch. So I'm not going to go into the history of what that is. I mean, you can check it out. But what I want to show you guys is how to create sort of generative space noises, and I'm going to even try include a little bit of more musical stuff into it using quantizers and that kind of things into the mix, and try create something a little bit more musical, and we can see where it takes us. But the whole idea is to let the machine randomize sounds and capture that in those moments, and you could always record that out, or you could just listen to it and enjoy. During the stream, I had quite a few questions about whether that type of thing was actually possible in VCV Rack, and it most definitely is. And I think one of the coolest things about VCV Rack is it's completely outside of your DAW, so it allows you to break the boundaries of notes and scales and quantization and that kind of thing, which I think was the key element in that particular patch. So anyway, let's dive into VCV Rack and have a look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've just set up a set of mutes so I can turn the audio on and off so I can speak to you guys at an audible level without driving myself crazy, and then a reverb as well. I'm going to get into some effects and stuff, but I'm sure you guys know obviously what a reverb is. To start things off, I want to get the module called a rampage, and this is a function generator, but for lack of a long explanation, it is a envelope. And I'm going to put in a scope as well that we can see, so we can see what's going on. It actually might be helpful to create a couple of scopes. So let's just create 2 scopes over here. And what we're going to want to do here is set this to cycle. And let's send output into X over here. And we want to trigger it. So now you see it's created a waveform for us. And we can change the rise and fall ramp of the waveform. We can also change the shape over here. But that's not very relevant for now. So the Krell patch is basically, it's based on mostly random. And so what I want to do is let's put in the random sampler. So this is a sampler as in sample and hold, or random generator. As you can see here, let's just put the output into the scope. Turn the rate up a bit, and we'll see it's generating us some random voltages here. So this frequency is actually very high of this guy. So we can actually turn the frequency down by opening up the rise and fall. And let's just turn the time up. Okay, this looks a little bit more like what we want to be looking at. So the idea here is we want to send the EOC, which is the end of cycle. Let's actually just take this out and send EOC into the Y input so we can see what's happening here. Every time it ends that ramp down at the bottom, it creates a trigger. So what we want to do with that trigger is let's send it to the clock input of our random generator. So now each time it hits the end of the cycle, it's going to generate a new random value. So let's turn that off and let's turn that in there. So now hopefully these random values will coincide with the ends of these ramps. So here what we can do is we can modulate the rise and fall time with this random generator here. And as you can see with the scope, we now get a kind of random ramp as well as random voltages. So I'm going to put in some audio now so we can hear what's going on. But just for make things a little bit easier to control before things get too complicated, let's put in a VCA or an attenuator. So I'm just going to use these simple ones for now because it's just a single value. So let's go in from this random sampler and then out into these. Cool. So let's put in an oscillator. So for now, I'm going to use the stock oscillator just to keep things a bit easier for you guys to follow along to in case you don't have all the hundreds of extra modules that I do. So just use a even VCO. Let's create another VCA. So let's send the sine wave in here, and I'm going to send it into my mutes, or for you guys it'll be into your reverb. I'm going to turn the volume down just so I don't blow my ears. And then here, let's send this output A into the CV input of the VCA. Okay, so I'm turning the rise and fall down a bit, and then this VCA up a bit. So we've got more randomization, and the start point is lower. So it's kind of starting at a lower tempo, and it's got more variation. Then what we can do here is we can set one of these random outputs to control the pitch of the input here. So that's the basics of it. I mean, obviously, it's a lot more complex in terms of like the actual Krell patch. There's FM involved and all sorts of stuff like that. We can get into that. I just want to show you guys a couple of other things. So I want to add in a quantizer. So random sampler, or marbles, should I say, has the ability to quantize, but I want to be able to sweep the steps over here. So I want to quantize externally, because the steps allows you to, sweep for like these kind of rise and fall type of patterns, like I've explained before. So here with this VArc, let's go into the input and then into the output over here. So what we can do is we can take out a bunch of notes. So I want 3 and 7, then the rest can go out. So we can put it more like in a scale. They were confining it to only play specific notes that we set, for example, like in a scale or something like that. So here, what I want to do is, let's put in a second oscillator. So the one that I found, sounds the best, or at least for me was the easiest to get a reasonable FM sound out of is this VCO over here by Bog Audio. So let's use this same quantization output over here into the VOCT. I want to send the even VCO square output into this guy's sync input, and I want to send this saw into its FM input, but I want to go through a VCA. So let's just duplicate this one, move this over here, go FM into the VCA, VCA into the FM, or at least sine into the VCA, like this. And then here, I want to use one of these randoms to control the amount of FM. So just for the purpose of quickly listening, I'm going to take this out and let's listen to this guy's sine wave. I want to put in an octave to pitch it down a bit. So that gives us a nice kind of like brassy kind of sound. So here, what I want to do is let's use the T side of random sampler to trigger the B side of Rampage, which can kind of trigger an envelope. And let's use this envelope to trigger another oscillator, something that's kind of more regular, not an FM kind of source. So obviously we've tuned this one down. So let's get another one that's kind of tuned up, use that on a sine wave. Just move these across. You can hold control to do so. And duplicate this, duplicate this mixer, this VCA, and sine wave in there. So here what I want to do is create an, no wait, we don't need an envelope. We set this CV input from out B over here. Let's turn these up quite a bit here. And you'll see as this gets triggered here, it runs its cycle. So we can go into the input here of, I've created a mixer, and then into the input there. So with this kind of like blippy sound, it could be cool to maybe create a delay. I'm really liking this dual delay from MSM. Let's go in here with both of them. And what I want to do is I want to modulate the time input. That can create some really cool kind of like psychedelic effects. This one's going to be stereo, but it's not really going to make a difference. Now I want to put in a filter. Let's put in this VCF. I want to run this FM sound into it, and then out back into its VCA. And then let's CV control with another one of these randoms. Let's set it to band pass. Like I said earlier, we're not limited to quantizing the stuff. We can actually remove the quantizer from the mix and create a much more randomized sound. So let's just be aware of what these were. This was this one, sending to here. Let's just route all of these to this guy over here. And this gets closer to the kind of sound that I was able to kind of create, or the sound that I was streaming, kind of randomized space noises type of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I want to run through one more thing. I want to show you guys this kind of sound when you granularize it using clouds or texture synthesizer in VCV Rack. So I want to show you the quantized and unquantized versions here. Let's just see if I've got this going. Okay, so the dry weight is on full at the moment, but we're going to turn it down in a moment. I find it helps to use something like the attenuator with it, because you can send the modulation inputs, like let's say all 4 of these, out into that guy, and then send them from the randomizer into that. And then you've got control over the amount that's being applied, if that makes sense. So you're not limited to, of course, you're not limited to using only one randomizer. I just want to show you guys like the power of this, being able to do all of this just with one of the module. Okay, so I'm going to turn this dry weight down a bit, and we're going to layer that granularization in with the signal. Okay, so let's put these quantizations back in. So it would be this guy, and this guy. big thanks to IDM Mag, proud supporters of the dance music scene and my channel.